The Indian subcontinent, a region teeming with vibrant cultures and ancient histories, lives under a persistent and ominous shadow. This shadow is cast by the nuclear capabilities of two of its most prominent nations, India and Pakistan. Their relationship, characterized by decades of rivalry and intermittent conflict, has entered a particularly dangerous phase since both countries overtly demonstrated their nuclear weapons capabilities in 1998. The presence of these devastating arsenals transforms every border skirmish, every diplomatic spat, and every act of aggression into a potential trigger for unimaginable catastrophe. Understanding this nuclear dynamic is not merely an academic exercise. It is crucial for comprehending regional stability and global security, as the consequences of a nuclear exchange would extend far beyond their borders. The critical nature of nuclear armament in South Asia cannot be overstated. These are not weapons held in reserve by distant superpowers with complex, multi-layered command structures developed over many decades. Instead, they are possessed by two neighboring states with a long and bitter history of direct military confrontation. The geographical proximity means that missile flight times are short, reducing decision-making windows during a crisis to mere minutes. This compressed timeline, coupled with persistent mistrust, creates a uniquely volatile environment. The international community watches with bated breath, aware that any miscalculation could lead to a rapid escalation from conventional warfare to a nuclear exchange, a prospect that carries horrifying implications for millions of lives and the global ecosystem. The acquisition of nuclear weapons by both India and Pakistan was driven by complex security calculations and national prestige. For India, it was a response to a perceived threat from a nuclear-armed China and a desire to assert its position as a major regional power. For Pakistan, the nuclear deterrent was primarily aimed at neutralizing India's conventional military superiority, providing what it views as an ultimate security guarantee. However, instead of fostering stability, these arsenals have, in many ways, institutionalized a state of perpetual tension. The doctrine of deterrence, while preventing all-out conventional wars from escalating beyond certain thresholds, has not stopped lower-intensity conflicts and dangerous brinkmanship, as recent events continue to demonstrate with alarming frequency. This essay will delve into the multifaceted nuclear competition between India and Pakistan. It will explore the historical context of their conflicts, compare their current nuclear capabilities and strategic doctrines, and analyze recent escalations that have brought the region perilously close to the brink. Furthermore, it will consider expert opinions on the likelihood of nuclear war and examine the diplomatic efforts aimed at mitigating these risks. The aim is to provide a clear and engaging overview of one of the world's most dangerous nuclear flashpoints, emphasizing the urgent need for sustained peace efforts to prevent a catastrophic outcome that would reverberate across the globe. The stakes are incredibly high, demanding continuous vigilance and proactive diplomacy. The roots of the India-Pakistan conflict are deeply embedded in the traumatic partition of British India in 1947. This division, drawn along religious lines, created two independent nations, and also sowed the seeds for enduring animosity and territorial disputes. The most prominent of these is the conflict over the Kashmir region, a picturesque valley claimed in its entirety by both countries, but administered in parts by each. This dispute has been the primary cause of two of the three major wars fought between them: the First Kashmir War from 1947 to 48 and the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965. These early conflicts established a pattern of hostility and suspicion that has defined their relationship for over 7 decades, creating a fertile ground for future escalations. A third major war erupted in 1971, leading to the creation of Bangladesh from what was formerly East Pakistan. While not directly about Kashmir, this conflict significantly altered the strategic balance in South Asia, cementing India's regional military dominance and further deepening Pakistan's sense of insecurity. This insecurity became a key driver in Pakistan's subsequent pursuit of nuclear weapons, viewed as the ultimate equalizer against India's larger conventional forces. The memory of these wars, characterized by significant casualties and territorial exchanges, continues to influence public opinion and political rhetoric in both nations. making reconciliation a challenging endeavor and fueling a persistent arms race. The overt nuclearization of South Asia occurred in May 1998, when India conducted a series of nuclear tests, codenamed Operation Shakti. Pakistan responded swiftly with its own tests just weeks later. These events fundamentally changed the strategic landscape. Suddenly, the unresolved disputes, particularly Kashmir, carried the added risk of nuclear escalation. The 1999 Kargil War, fought in the high-altitude terrain of Kashmir shortly after the nuclear tests, was a stark reminder of this new reality. During this conflict, Pakistani officials made veiled threats about the possible use of nuclear weapons to defend their territorial integrity, sending alarm bells ringing across the international community and highlighting the immense dangers of miscalculation. Subsequent crises have continued to test the nuclear threshold. The 2001 to 2002 India-Pakistan standoff, following an attack on the Indian Parliament, saw massive military mobilizations on both sides of the border. More recently, the 2019 Pulwama attack and the ensuing Balakot airstrikes brought the two nations closer to a wider conflict than at any time since Kargil. In March 2022, an accidental firing of an Indian nuclear-capable cruise missile into Pakistani territory, though unarmed, underscored the risks of technical malfunction or human error leading to unintended escalation. These incidents demonstrate that despite the supposed stabilizing effect of nuclear deterrence, the region remains precariously balanced on a knife edge where any significant provocation could spiral out of control. When examining the nuclear capabilities of India and Pakistan, it is evident that both nations have invested significantly in developing credible, albeit differently structured, nuclear deterrence. As of early 2024 and recent 2025 estimates, both countries are believed to possess a comparable number of nuclear warheads. India is estimated to have over 180 nuclear warheads, with some sources like the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute in January 2024, placing the figure around 170. This arsenal is supported by a domestic capacity to produce weapons-grade plutonium, with estimates from early 2023 suggesting India holds about 680 kilograms, sufficient for approximately 130 to 210 nuclear warheads. This steady growth reflects India's strategic imperatives and its doctrine of credible minimum deterrence. Pakistan, on the other hand, is also estimated to possess over 170 nuclear warheads, a figure similar to India's. Some reports suggest that Pakistan's nuclear program has received support from China, contributing to its development and expansion. Projections from organizations like the Federation of American Scientists' Nuclear Information Project indicate that Pakistan's arsenal could potentially reach around 200 warheads by the late 2020s. This ambition reflects Pakistan's strategy to counter India's conventional military advantages and maintain a robust deterrent posture. The parity in numbers, however, does not fully capture the nuances of their respective capabilities or strategic thinking, which differ in significant ways. The global context of nuclear arsenals further highlights the scale of these South Asian stockpiles. While the total number of global nuclear warheads stands at approximately 12,121, with the vast majority, over 8,000, held by the United States and Russia, the arsenals of India and Pakistan represent a significant concentration of nuclear firepower in a historically volatile region. Of the global total, around 9,585 warheads are in military stockpiles, with 3,904 actively deployed. Though smaller than the Cold War giants, the South Asian arsenals are dynamic and evolving, with both countries continuously working on modernizing and expanding their nuclear forces, including their delivery systems and warhead designs. The development of these arsenals is not just about numbers. It is also about the type and sophistication of the weapons. Both countries are believed to be improving the yield and reliability of their warheads. Pakistan, for instance, has reportedly focused on developing tactical nuclear weapons designed for battlefield use, a dimension that adds another layer of complexity to the deterrence equation. India, while officially adhering to a no-first-use policy, ensures its arsenal is credible enough for massive retaliation. The ongoing qualitative and quantitative improvements in both arsenals mean that the nuclear standoff in South Asia is far from static, posing an ever-present challenge to regional and global security efforts. A nuclear warhead's destructive power is only as effective as the means to deliver it to a target. Consequently, both India and Pakistan have dedicated substantial resources to developing and diversifying their nuclear delivery systems. India has made significant strides in establishing a nascent nuclear triad, which comprises the capability to launch nuclear weapons from land, air, and sea. Its land-based deterrent relies on a range of mobile ballistic missiles, including the Agni series, which vary in range and can reach deep into Pakistani and Chinese territory. Air-delivered options are provided by fighter-bomber aircraft capable of carrying nuclear gravity bombs, offering flexibility in deployment and targeting. The naval leg of India's triad is perhaps its most technologically advanced and strategically significant component. India has been actively developing nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines, such as the INS Arihant class. These submarines, capable of launching nuclear missiles while submerged, provide a highly survivable second strike capability, reinforcing India's no-first-use policy by ensuring devastating retaliation even after absorbing a first strike. Collaboration with Russia on ship and submarine-launched missiles has further enhanced these capabilities. This pursuit of a robust sea-based deterrent is a clear indication of India's long-term strategic planning and its ambition to project power beyond its immediate neighborhood. Pakistan, while also aspiring to a nuclear triad, has traditionally focused more on land-based mobile missile systems. Its arsenal includes a variety of short and medium-range ballistic missiles, such as the Shaheen and Gauri series, which are designed to be road mobile, making them harder to detect and target before launch. These systems are primarily aimed at countering India's conventional and nuclear forces. Pakistan also possesses air delivery capabilities through its air force. However, its naval leg is considered less developed compared to India's, though efforts are underway to enhance its sea-based deterrent options, potentially including submarine-launched cruise missiles to ensure survivability. The development of tactical nuclear weapons by Pakistan since around 2011, such as the NASA short-range ballistic missile, adds another dimension to its delivery capabilities and strategic calculus. These are designed for battlefield use against conventional forces, potentially with yields that could range significantly, some sources suggesting up to 300 kilotons, though this upper range seems exceptionally high for a tactical weapon and likely refers to strategic yields, if accurate. The rationale behind tactical nuclear weapons is to deter a large-scale Indian conventional offensive, often referred to as the cold start doctrine, by threatening a rapid, localized nuclear response. This strategy, however, significantly lowers the nuclear threshold and increases the risk of escalation during a conventional conflict. Section 5. Strategic postures. India's no first use versus Pakistan's calculated ambiguity. India's official nuclear doctrine, formally adopted in 1998 and reiterated in 2003, is centered on a no first use policy. This means India pledges not to be the first to initiate a nuclear attack. However, it unequivocally states that any nuclear attack on Indian territory or its forces anywhere will be met with massive retaliation designed to inflict unacceptable damage. This posture is underpinned by the principle of credible minimum deterrence, implying that India will maintain a nuclear arsenal sufficient to deter an adversary but will not engage in an open-ended arms race. The NFU policy is intended to project India as a responsible nuclear power and reduce the chances of accidental or preemptive nuclear war. Despite the official NFU stance, there have been nuances and some debate within India regarding its practical application. In 2003, India introduced a significant caveat, reserving the right to use nuclear weapons in retaliation if attacked with biological or chemical weapons. More recently, some political statements and strategic analyses have hinted at a potential shift towards greater strategic ambiguity or even a reconsideration of NFU under certain extreme circumstances, though officially the NFU policy remains in place. This ambiguity, whether intentional or not, is seen by some as a way to enhance deterrence by keeping potential adversaries guessing about India's precise red lines for nuclear retaliation. In stark contrast to India's declared NFU, Pakistan has deliberately maintained a policy of strategic ambiguity regarding its nuclear use doctrine, also referred to as a policy of credible minimum deterrence, but with a first-use option clearly on the table. Pakistan has never adopted an NFU pledge. In fact, in May 2024, it explicitly stated that it does not adhere to an NFU policy. This stance is rooted in its perception of India's conventional military superiority. Pakistan views its nuclear weapons as a crucial deterrent against a large-scale Indian conventional attack that could threaten its territorial integrity or existence, thus reserving the option to use nuclear weapons first if necessary. To provide some clarity, albeit without a formal comprehensive published doctrine, Pakistani officials and strategists have, over time, articulated certain red lines or thresholds that, if crossed by India, could trigger a Pakistani nuclear response. These generally include a spatial threshold, significant loss of Pakistani territory, especially in strategically vital areas; a military threshold, destruction of a large part of Pakistan's land or air forces or key military assets; an economic threshold, actions leading to economic strangulation or severe damage to its economy; and a political threshold, actions causing large-scale internal destabilization or threatening the cohesion of the state. The development of tactical nuclear weapons is seen as a way to operationalize this first-use option at a lower level of conflict. Section 6. The May 2025 crisis, brinkmanship and a fragile ceasefire. The fragile peace between India and Pakistan was shattered once again in the spring of 2025, demonstrating the ever-present danger of rapid escalation. Hostilities reignited on April 22, 2025, following a devastating attack in Pahalgam, located in Indian-administered Kashmir. This terrorist incident resulted in the tragic deaths of 25 tourists and a local guide. India swiftly blamed Pakistan for orchestrating the attack, an accusation that Pakistan vehemently denied, setting the stage for a dangerous confrontation. The incident immediately heightened tensions, with both sides trading barbs and placing their militaries on alert, reminiscent of previous crises that have plagued the region for decades. The situation deteriorated rapidly. On May 7, 2025, India launched missile attacks into Pakistan, claiming these strikes targeted terrorist infrastructure. However, according to Pakistani officials, these attacks resulted in at least 31 civilian deaths, further inflaming passions and increasing calls for retaliation within Pakistan. The following days, May 8th and 9th, saw India reportedly launch drones into Pakistani airspace. While Pakistan initially denied both the missile and drone attacks, it later acknowledged them, asserting that India had targeted its military bases. This sequence of events marked a significant escalation, moving beyond rhetoric to direct military engagements across the line of control and the international border. The crisis reached a fever pitch on May 10, 2025, when Pakistan announced that it had conducted retaliatory strikes against multiple Indian military bases. This claim came after Pakistan alleged that India had launched missiles against 3 of its bases. This tit-for-tat military action, involving missile strikes and potential air engagements, brought the two nuclear-armed neighbors perilously close to a wider conflict. It was at this critical juncture that international diplomacy intervened. A ceasefire, brokered by the United States, was agreed upon on May 10th after 4 days of intense military exchanges. US President Donald Trump announced the agreement, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance playing key roles in facilitating the de-escalation. Despite the announcement of the US-brokered ceasefire, its hold proved tenuous from the outset. Violations were reported within hours, with explosions rocking border cities and towns. Artillery fire and attack drones were observed in the contested Jammu and Kashmir region, indicating that both sides were struggling to rein in hostilities completely. The civilian death toll from this short but brutal round of fighting tragically rose to 66. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri accused Pakistan of violating the ceasefire and instructed Indian armed forces to respond strongly to any provocations. Conversely, the Pakistani Foreign Ministry stated its commitment to the ceasefire, but blamed India for the ongoing violations, highlighting the deep mistrust that continues to undermine peace efforts. Section 7. Expert opinions. assessing the true risk of nuclear confrontation. The recurring crises between India and Pakistan, particularly the recent May 2025 escalation, inevitably raise the chilling question: how likely is a nuclear war in South Asia? Experts in the field offer varied but generally cautious perspectives. Dan Smith of the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute has opined that while the actual use of nuclear weapons remains improbable, it is certainly not impossible. This nuanced view acknowledges the powerful deterrent effect of nuclear arms, but also recognizes the multiple pathways through which deterrence could fail, especially in a region characterized by such deep-seated animosity and frequent conventional clashes. The sheer destructive potential means even a small probability carries catastrophic weight. Laura Salman, also from SEPRI, highlights the complexities introduced by strategic doctrines. She notes that strategic ambiguity, particularly Pakistan's stance of not having a no-first-use policy and its development of tactical nuclear weapons, can be a double-edged sword. While it might aim to deter by creating uncertainty, it could also lead to inadvertent escalation if one side misinterprets the other's actions or unintentionally crosses vaguely defined red lines. The introduction of battlefield nuclear weapons, for instance, lowers the threshold for nuclear use and could create a use-it-or-lose-it dilemma for commanders on the ground during intense conventional combat, compelling them to request nuclear release early in a conflict. Many experts agree that while the overall risk of a deliberate, all-out nuclear war remains relatively small due to the understanding of mutually assured destruction, the potential for accidental or inadvertent escalation is a significant concern. Several factors contribute to this risk: human error in command and control systems, the potential for cyber attacks by state or non-state actors targeting nuclear infrastructure, the possibility of terrorists acquiring nuclear materials or a rudimentary device, computer failures leading to false warnings of an attack, or even flawed satellite data misinterpreted during a high-stakes crisis. The stability of political leadership during a crisis also plays a crucial role in decision-making under immense pressure. Despite these grave risks and repeated crises, it is important to note that both India and Pakistan have, thus far, managed to avoid nuclear conflict. The deterrent effect of nuclear weapons has arguably prevented their numerous conventional clashes and standoffs from escalating into full-scale, potentially existential wars. Furthermore, neither side wishes to be the first to break the post-Hiroshima/Nagasaki global taboo against the use of nuclear weapons. However, the May 2025 conflict, with its rapid escalation and direct military strikes, serves as a stark reminder of the region's volatility. The potential for miscalculation remains high, and the consequences of such an error would be devastating beyond imagination. Section 8. International Interventions, the role of diplomacy in de-escalation. The May 2025 crisis, which saw India and Pakistan engage in direct military strikes, underscored the critical role of international mediation in preventing a catastrophic escalation. As tensions reached a boiling point, with both sides exchanging fire and rhetoric, the United States stepped in to broker a ceasefire. This intervention, announced by US President Donald Trump, and facilitated by high-level engagement from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance, was instrumental in pulling the two nations back from the brink. The US has historically played a mediating role in South Asian crises, leveraging its diplomatic influence to encourage restraint and dialogue between the nuclear-armed rivals. Beyond the direct US mediation, the May 2025 crisis also saw the activation of existing military communication channels and hotlines between India and Pakistan. These mechanisms, designed to prevent misunderstandings and allow for rapid de-escalation during crises, were reportedly utilized extensively. Furthermore, it was reported that around 36 other countries were involved in some capacity, offering assistance, urging restraint, or facilitating communication behind the scenes. This broad international concern reflects the global stakes involved in any major conflict between India and Pakistan, particularly one with nuclear undertones. The international community recognizes that a South Asian war could have far-reaching security, economic, and humanitarian consequences. Despite the ceasefire agreement, the path to sustained peace remains fraught with challenges. Punitive measures implemented during the crisis, such as the suspension of trade between the two countries, the cancellation of visas, and India's suspension of the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty, largely remain in place. These measures reflect the deep anger and mistrust that persist, while the ceasefire agreement reportedly includes plans for talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral venue. The immediate aftermath was marked by accusations of ceasefire violations from both sides, indicating the difficulty of translating diplomatic agreements into tangible calm on the ground. The deep-rooted issues, especially concerning Kashmir, require more than temporary fixes. Adding to the tension during the May 2025 crisis were signals regarding nuclear readiness. Pakistan's National Command Authority, the body that oversees its nuclear arsenal, was reported to have convened a meeting, a move widely interpreted as signaling its nuclear capability and resolve. Although Pakistan's defense minister later denied that any such meeting was scheduled, the initial reports contributed to the heightened sense of alarm. On the Indian side, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized that India would not tolerate nuclear blackmail and would take decisive action against terrorist safe havens. These statements, while aimed at domestic audiences and deterrence, highlight the nuclear dimension that looms over every confrontation. Section 9. Conclusion. The imperative for lasting peace in a nuclearized region. The nuclear standoff between India and Pakistan represents one of the most complex and dangerous security challenges in the world today. Their shared history, marred by conflict and deep-seated mistrust, combined with their proximate nuclear arsenals, creates a uniquely volatile environment where miscalculation or accident could have catastrophic consequences. The events of May 2025 served as yet another stark reminder of how quickly tensions can escalate from border skirmishes or terrorist attacks to direct military confrontations involving missile strikes, pushing both nations dangerously close to a wider war with an ever-present nuclear dimension. The fragility of ceasefires and the persistence of mutual accusations underscore the deep challenges to achieving lasting stability. The doctrines of no first use by India and strategic ambiguity, coupled with potential first use by Pakistan, shaped their strategic interactions but also introduced layers of uncertainty. While deterrence has so far prevented a nuclear exchange, the risks associated with accidental war, inadvertent escalation due to technical malfunction, human error, or the actions of non-state actors remain alarmingly real. Expert opinions consistently highlight that while a deliberate nuclear war might be improbable, the potential for an unintended nuclear conflict cannot be dismissed, especially during periods of heightened crisis. The catastrophic humanitarian and environmental impact of even a limited nuclear exchange in South Asia would be global in scale. International diplomatic efforts like the US brokered ceasefire in May 2025 play a crucial role in crisis management and de-escalation. However, such interventions, while vital in the short term, cannot substitute for a sustained and sincere commitment from both India and Pakistan to resolve their underlying disputes through peaceful dialogue and negotiation. The international community must continue to encourage and support comprehensive talks, confidence-building measures, and arms control initiatives tailored to the specific context of South Asia. Reducing rhetoric, strengthening communication channels, and fostering greater transparency regarding nuclear doctrines and capabilities are essential steps. Ultimately, the future security and prosperity of South Asia, and indeed global stability, depend on India and Pakistan finding a path towards a durable peace. This requires visionary leadership, a willingness to address contentious issues like Kashmir with openness and flexibility, and a shared recognition that the pursuit of security through ever-expanding nuclear arsenals is a perilous endeavor. The shadow of the bomb can only be lifted through a concerted effort to build trust, foster economic cooperation, and prioritize the well-being of their populations over perpetual conflict. The alternative is to continue living on the precipice, where the next crisis could be the one that crosses the nuclear threshold.